Welcome to Redoctoring. This is the podcast that allows you to be a different kind of doctor. My name is Dr. Diane, and welcome, my dear listener. Today, I have an interesting conversation for you to eavesdrop on, and I hope that you will be inspired yet again with another way that you can utilize your degree in a way that makes sense to you as a person. I have Dr. Tutula with us. How are you doing, girl?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's been a good day, and I'm hoping that we'll have a good conversation.
Me too.
Can you please tell us, how did you find yourself in medicine?
All right. So I come from the Eastern Cape in Mthatha, in a village called Makinrina. I was raised by my mom and dad. Mom is a teacher. My dad was a taxi driver. My parents always, taught us to strive for excellence and to want to become more than what we could see around us. But I think the other contributor for me was the fact that two of my siblings are doctors. So it was a natural conversation at home that you're gonna do this as well. And then I know that some of my interests at school were English and writing, but I was also good at other things. I particularly enjoyed biology. And there wasn't really a lot of information about what you could do outside, the common careers that people tend to choose, so medicine or law or whatever. So as a natural progression, that's how I ended up in medicine. I did know that I also just wanted to do work where I would serve people as well. So yeah, that's how I ended up doing medicine.
I think it's always so interesting finding people who have people in their families, especially siblings, that are already in medicine. Do you feel like it made the journey easier because you had literal guidance that was a few years above you and so close to you?
My family or my siblings rather, they're really, really amazing people. But they told me exactly what medicine is like, right? And so very early or even before, I remember my sister, trying to paint the picture of what it was like, because people tend to like romanticize it and make it, seem like it's all, oh, you're gonna be helping people, you're gonna be this hero, you're just going to be doing your biology or whatever it is that makes you want to go in. So yeah, I think I knew, or I had that expectation at the back of my mind that that's what it would have been, it was going to be like. They were also very supportive in my journey mid school. I think for the first few years, my sister lived very close to me, and then my brother also moved to Cape Town. And I would live with him for a very long time. There was a period where I lived with him. He'd also just provide, emotional support, but also a level of mentorship. So I would say yes, actually. I would say yes. They were really amazing. Yeah.
Mentorship is key. Mentorship is something that I find that we are lacking so much in the medical space. From the time you're a student, even now, post ComServe, and you have to kind of make sense of your career. So I think it's quite cool that you had that built in your family.
I think the thing about mentorship is that, when someone is trying to build something, um, they are told, or almost like it almost feels like you should go out and seek mentors. But what I've realized in my life and in the course of my career is that your mentors will find you, or your mentors, other people, can be the people around you where you are. When I was in high school, I had teachers that believed in me, and that's actually part of the reason why I would perform well. Those were my mentors. When I was in varsity, my family, and some of my lecturers as well. When I got into, internship and community service, there were different people that I can attribute to being my mentors. So mentorship is very important, but I think you don't have to have someone that you're like, oh, this is my designated mentor. Really, the people around you that you look up to can or are actually good mentors to you.
That's a beautiful way of putting it. I think there's so much pressure in having to find and do hard work to find mentorship. It is something that's important, and I wish that it was more at the forefront of everyone's mind. But if people are not able to, how would you advise them to like connect with people in order to see if this can be someone who I can glean wisdom from?
Sure, sure. So I think now with, in the digital age, the world has become much, much smaller. So I would say, put yourself out there, right? There are so many ways that I've gotten to like contact or talk to people who were in spaces that I was trying to infiltrate. I'll make an example of, maybe not mentorship as such, but like this can get you in the door. This can get you to have an interaction with said person that you wish to mentor you. Going into Kiredi, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, past workplace, there was an ex-classmate of mine whom I used to see on social media who used to post about this, and I was like, yo, this is interesting, this is so cool, this is something that I really want to do. And I reached out, asked about it, found out how to get involved or how I could get into that space, and that was quite helpful. There's also so many. There's also, especially in our field, certain departments or will host webinars or seminars, and I was trying to get into public health. I remember they still do, actually. Like, if you go on LinkedIn, they'll have these webinars where they'll talk about how to get into public health. So if you reach out to those people, that also will help. But, like I said, the people around you as well. So I'd say LinkedIn, put yourself out there. You can also approach departments if you're someone that is interested in going into a department, and just find out how you can contribute, or the little that you can know about the department and the work that they do, and just form those relationships. I think relationship forming is very important. People tend to gravitate towards people they know. So I think that's something that's very important.
Definitely underrated. But I feel like we went very, very far into the conversation so quickly. Let me bring us back. You studied medicine at UCT. How was that experience as a medical student? How did you find that?
Yeah, so my experience was really difficult, and I'll tell you why. All my life before varsity, I went to schools they classify as historically disadvantaged schools. So schools in the village, right? You'll have like 60 children in a classroom, not the best resources available to you, and you have to like make do with what you have. I mean, and then the transition, you can imagine, is, quite challenging. I didn't speak like the people around me. I didn't learn, or a lot of things were new to me. The way of learning was new to me. I had quite a lot of imposter syndrome, which I struggled with for a very long time. Just, yeah, it was quite difficult. And then the culture of medicine and how it's taught, like, it was really nice and interesting, but like there are a bit of difficulties in the way that medicine is taught, the load of the work as well. That was quite different and difficult. But I'm grateful. I'm really grateful that I managed to get through my studies. I'm not gonna lie. It was difficult for me.
No, we truly live by the grace of God. We really do. Did you find that
Absolutely.
there was any specific year that was the most challenging for you, or any specific challenge that you remember from med school? I know it's quite some time ago.
Okay, if I think about it, I think every year had its challenges. Also, I tend to not remember very well mid school, but for me, it was my first year. I think the transition was hard. I remember listening to an audio by Prof. Pakeng, and she was saying that a lot of people, or a lot that's being said, is that, students are not prepared for the transition to varsity. But she was like, institutions are actually not prepared for that transition. And like, so what are universities doing to bridge that gap, especially for students that come from disadvantaged backgrounds and just who are new to this whole setup? That was really difficult for me. Just the content of the work as well. Yeah, it was really difficult. I don't quite remember a particular incident. I don't, but that was really difficult for me.
That's quite interesting how you mentioned how the universities don't have a lot of support in place for students. It's also something that I remember. I vaguely remember. I think we'd had like mentorship in res to help the first years, but I feel like it should expand more into first and second year, because some people face the realities of leaving home much later than others. But I think it is something that we can improve upon.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
And then, okay, so I forgot to say in the beginning of the episode, but you are now in the research space. So let's talk about your journey after graduating. You did your internship at Redoctoring and Frere Hospital.
Yeah.
Did you split your time, or how did that?
Okay. So I'll start by saying at some point in my studies, I realized that I don't know if I actually want to do this, right? But I knew that I needed to complete my studies. I think my mental health had also taken a toll. The work had, or my studies had also taken a toll on my mental health. And then when I went into my internship, I did a very short period of time, wasn't necessarily split, but the environment wasn't good for me. So I swapped. Luckily for me, there was someone, an intern in East London, who wanted to move to Leratong. So I was able to swap and I thrived in that environment. Yeah. And then I went on then to do my community service in Pumalanga. I'm not sure if I've answered the question fully.
No, you did. And then
Okay.
let me expand upon that. I feel like internship should be done close to home. So I feel like by
Absolutely.
being closer to home, I think that might have also helped your mental health.
First of all, I was asynchronous, right? And when I finished, I just wanted to get a job because I was like, I'm not going to sit at home. And so I had been allocated to a hospital in Joburg. I lost that post. It was at the start of this employment crisis that we're having now. And so I fought for my post. I got a post in Leratong. Things didn't go well. She was so helpful in also just helping me transition back to the Eastern Cape. But yeah, you are absolutely right. And she was right.
You see, when you want to see things for yourself in life, hey.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at least she helped. At least she helped and she didn't, rub it in your face that I told you so. That's what good sisters do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you were strong enough to go more further from home for community service. How was your community service? Which department were you in?
So I worked in women's health or obs and gynae. I worked in HIV clinic. And then, after hours would do calls in the emergency unit. I really, really loved the women that I was working with, right? I loved the patients that I was working with in the HIV unit as well. I really love infectious diseases. But what I noticed about myself is that I cared more about, the social circumstances that bring these people here or that they're under. I would look at why young people or young children rather, why we struggle to control them on ART. Those were the things that I was like, oh, I look much more into like community and what brings this person in front of me today. I have a story to tell actually about how I realized what I think I want to do. When I got to Mpumalanga, one of the things I picked up on was that we had, quite a lot of cases of sexual assault. I had never seen cases of sexual assault in my internship. I remember how we would be allocated to the rape center and you would go on a day and there would be no one there. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh, what's going on? And when I would speak to people, they'd be like, yeah, there's a lot of alcoholism and violence in this community. And then, like with the women I was working with as well in the obs and gynae on the obstetrics ward, there would be issues around, oh, can you sign this consent for a procedure that will be beneficial to you? And they would be like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to sign. Can I ask for permission from my partner? Which I understand the importance of having a discussion, but I realized it was more of a issue of, do I know that I have autonomy over my body? Do I know that I can make a choice about my body? Lots of cases of statutory rape as well. There was a hospital that we used to work in conjunction with that we used to refer to. And I knew that they had a rape care center and I wondered why we don't have one. And so I called. I don't remember who I called at the time, but I managed to get the contact details of one of the people in the NPA that are responsible for planting care centers. And then I spoke to this person. I don't remember. It was advocate so and so. I don't remember the name. And she said, "No, we can. I just need you to speak to your hospital management, and we can set that up and see." That didn't work out because our facility manager spoke about issues of spacing and I guess resources for this site to happen. But I also made attempts to speak to the chief, who was the leader of the community, just to talk about or to have his buy-in because I believe that men tend to listen to men and so forth. I realized that this is public health, this is community health, this is prevention, or this is preventative, what I want to do. And so, yeah, I think for me, then I realized, no, I think this is where my passion lies.
No, and it's quite interesting how you went through so many channels to try and do something. Did any of those channels actually work, or were you able to like set up something for the community?
No, none of the channels work. I never managed to get like an audience with the chief, unfortunately. And I managed to introduce the hospital manager to the lady I had spoken to, but I could not then be involved in the engagements going on after that. So I'm not sure, but as far as I know, I don't think it worked.
That's unfortunate, but it was a humble beginning for you. It was a humble beginning, and it expands even into your journey now as, with advocacy in public health. I think that's not an aspect of public health that I've heard a lot about.
Yeah, yeah. I think the important thing for me is, yeah, it's unfortunate that it wasn't successful, but I think small efforts are important too, right? I don't, and especially in public health, something that I learned is that it's great to like have, a big outcome that is like, successful and so forth. But I think the little work that you're able to put in is also important. Like for instance, in that incident or circumstance, I was able to like alert our hospital manager about the crisis that we're facing. I was able to try and reach out to the community leader about what was happening as well. So I think even that might have a positive ripple effect. Hopefully it did. But, I think it's important to try in just healthcare in general.
Definitely. And even though in the community the change might not have been felt, I think it created a lot of ripple effects in your own life, because you said from that experience now you've discovered what it is that you actually want to do and the path that you actually want to be on. So it's a win. It's a win in some way.
But that's a win.
A win is a win.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, with regards to public health, how would you define it? I've heard many descriptions from people, but mainly it feels very individualized.
All right. So I'm going to try and personalize my definition because there is a textbook definition, which I may remember vaguely, but that definition speaks to, the science of preventing disease, promoting health, and so preventing disease, promoting health, and improving or preserving life through organized societal systems, right? So if we look at that, disease prevention can happen at any level of care. It can happen in your clinic. It can happen before before illness is encountered. It can happen at different levels, even in the hospital, to prevent advancement of the disease. But if we look at the bigger picture, which I think public health allows us to do, it's more population focused. So what can we do in this population to prevent disease, to preserve health? And so for me, public health is political. Public health is economical, right? Public health is the environment. What is the environment? Public health is clinical medicine or clinical healthcare. It's all these things that intersect to determine health outcomes in a community for me. So then if you look at it from that perspective, from the top up, it's quite broad. You could go into anything really, right? So that's what it means to me. I hope I'm making sense.
No, I hear you. I hear you. It feels like it's the background of medicine. Like it's actually where medicine first begins. Because without people actually gathering data and being on the ground with regards to the community, we won't know what direction to steer clinical medicine actually into.
Absolutely, absolutely. I like that. Yeah.
When you started pursuing the public health route, did you feel like you were letting go of what it means to be a doctor, or did you still feel like, no, I'm still a doctor in a different capacity and I'm okay with how I'm becoming, In the medical fraternity, there's a vibe of if you're not in the hospital, what are you doing?
So I think for me, I don't know, I've never felt so connected to, I'm just going to say, the stethoscope or like seeing patient. I think that's been a very important part of my life. but it didn't feel that way at all to me. I felt like I had this knowledge, all this experience that I had accumulated in my training, internship, and community service that I could now bring into a different setting to still contribute to better health outcomes for community. So I never felt that. No, not at all. I was a doctor in this environment where there were not a lot of doctors, still aren't a lot of doctors, which I feel is needed. So for me, it felt like a natural progression or continuation.
I like how you looked at it as progression and continuation. It's not you stopping and it's not you even quitting. It's like, you know how a butterfly goes from a caterpillar to a butterfly?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's that type of thing, which should be more normalized, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much that we can do without degree, right? And you're not less of a doctor because you're not in the hospital, because you still use the same knowledge, the same expertise for a different outcome. So yeah.
Let's talk about what you did with Kiredi. You were at the DG Murray Trust for about 2 years. Was the project, how did you get into the space even? Because you went from post-comserve and then into DG Murray Trust.
Yes. I think at the time, Kiredi started off as a campaign to increase COVID vaccine uptake amongst young people, right? So I think they were looking for young doctors that looked like the people we wanted to. They were looking for young doctors to sort of increase vaccine uptake amongst young people through media communication, mostly social media, right? And I remember, I think I alluded to this earlier on, I had seen an ex-classmate of mine who was doing this, and I was like, oh, this is something really interesting that I would like to do. And just reading more about it made me realize, oh, there's a place for people who have these interests that I have. So the next time they had a vacancy, I applied. And in this time, when they opened up more vacancies, the project was moving more towards mobile clinics. So they wanted to have the model of a clinic on wheels, right, to provide full comprehensive healthcare services to disadvantaged communities. And that was very appealing to me. And the role that we would assume then would be, yes, the communications, but also actually leading the clinic. So I would describe the role that I held as a district mobile unit or mobile clinic coordinator, because we were responsible for managing these teams of nurses and clinical staff who were running clinic on the ground, but we were also responsible for liaising with the Department of Health in that particular district, working hand in hand with them, making sure that we meet these targets and support them. So yeah, that's how I got into the work that I did, and I absolutely loved it. And I was grateful for that opportunity because I think it's quite rare, especially for our age at the time.
And it sounds similar to what you were trying to achieve in your community service, yeah, how you were liaising with different groups and also involving the public to get a specific outcome and to improve awareness and things like that. So it's quite interesting how that found you again.
Absolutely. You know what? I really, as much as we can say, this is what I did to get to this point, this is what I did to get this point, I attribute really my career to, the grace of God. I believe that life is quite spiritual. And I know there's certain things that you can't explain on your own. And I just know for me, that was God. It was an answered prayer. It was something that I wanted to do. And when I got into the work, it was something that I knew was made for me, or I felt I belonged in that space.
Yes, alignment. You felt aligned with it.
Yes, absolutely.
I think career clarity is something that's quite hard to explain, or it's hard to grasp. I think especially because we're young and we feel like we should have everything sorted out. How would you advise someone to go about to gain clarity over what is it that they want with their career and how to move it?
All right. I think different things come for different people at different times. I think, for instance, we can make the example of my career and how I found, or I'm finding, because I'm still not at the end or No, I'm still figuring things out and still moving in my career. I think try things out, right? If you're interested in, say, for instance, radiology, pursue radiology and don't be afraid to start over if that's not something that you want. I have so many people around me that are inspiring, or that I find inspiring. One of those people is a very close friend of mine, and I really love her ability to reinvent herself and start over. She's also a medical doctor. She has pursued, a career in a different field in medicine, has written primaries, felt that wasn't for her, has tried to do something else, and is always constantly reinventing herself. And empowering herself with those skills. And I think that's very important. I think shifting your gaze from the timelines that we often set for ourselves, looking at where other people are or what they're doing. No, my classmates are now consultants, or they are now this and this and that, and just realizing that you're an individual and your life is your own, and it will it will shape itself into what it's supposed to be. I think as long as you keep on moving, I think you'll end up there. Yeah.
Reinvention is a nice word that we need to bring into medicine, because you're not a tree. You're not forced to be stuck to any particular route. And I think sometimes we hold ourselves hostage to the ideas that we previously had of where we should have been or where we wanted to be, and we don't even allow the now to happen. So it's quite interesting. Your friend sounds like an interesting person.
She's amazing. She's so amazing, so inspiring. But I just to add to that, people tend to, for instance, say, oh, I don't want to start now because if I start now, I will finish when I'm 40, I'll finish when I'm 50, and so forth. But I think, I don't know if it's a quote, but it's a saying that people like to say that you're going to turn 40 anyway. You might turn 40 without the qualification that you want, or you might turn 40 with the qualification that you want. So I think the age thing as well, just do what you want to do. Start at whatever point you are.
Exactly, because the time will go by. The time will
Yeah.
definitely go by.
Yeah.
So now you found yourself in the research space after your time at the DG Murray Trust. How is the research? How is it? Because I think a lot of us, we hear of research, but we actually don't know what the vibes are in that sector.
Okay, so it's definitely different to what we know or our training, right? I mean, you still come and you're a clinician and you still practice medicine, but I work in clinical trials or vaccine clinical trials, right? And basically what that is we research or like introducing medicine into like mainstream where it's approved for use by the community or the population. Drugs go through different phases of a trial. It's tested on animals, it's tested on a few set of healthy people. They increase the sample size until it's a big enough sample until it's a big enough sample to be able to say that this drug works. It has X and Y side effects. These are tolerable to the community. This is potential toxicity. So in order for you to do that work, you have to be trained in research ethics, good clinical practice, and so forth, because it's very particular. You have to follow a system and a way of doing things. But I really, really like that. And it's quite important because 4 or 5 years down the line, the work that you're doing is going to be, a solution to a big health or public health problem again. So yeah, that's essentially how it is.
You mentioned in research, there's a whole bunch of things that you need to know: the good clinical practice, how trials are orchestrated and everything. Are there any courses besides, I know, good clinical practice that you can do? Are there any other courses that one can do that can buff up your CV and your knowledge to enter into the space?
So there are courses, and they're actually offered by the platform provided by Wits Health Consortium. I think there's ethics in research. There are also courses offered by, I forget now. Tree, yes, T, I think. And those courses focus more on how to perform research with clinical subjects, or rather, we call them participants, and so forth. So there are a lot of those certifications. I do know that with GCP as well, it can be quite expensive, especially looking now at how, someone might be unemployed wanting to do GCP, but I think there are some sites or platforms that offer an online version of the GCP.
I was speaking to a previous guest, actually. She mentioned how when you move into research, you're actually starting from the ground up in a whole new industry. And with that comes also starting your salary also from the ground up. How did
Yep.
you feel about that? How did you navigate that?
Well, your guess was correct. So I'll start with the starting from the ground up, career wise, right? Sure, it's a steep learning curve, especially because things can move a bit fast depending on where you work once you are able to start. Some of the things are very technical and they may seem like, oh, this is something very small. But they're actually quite significant. Let me make an example of the way that you write is very important, right? You may think that, if I just quickly
Absolutely.
write, like, what's the matter? I managed this participant well, but the way that you write should stand the test of time. Like, if somebody else is coming in to read what you wrote and they are non-medical stuff, because research or like the product of what you do, of the work that you produce, right, goes through quite a lot of people, and not all of those people are medical personnel. So you can imagine they must be able to read this out and understand it. It must not have any ambiguity. So you would think that, that's easy. Your handwriting needs to stand the test of time because this work is archived. And, some of these medicines will be approved for use in the public 5-10 years down the line. So those things are very important. And so it is quite different. It's like learning a new language, right? Yeah. And then with regards to like the salary as well, I mean, yeah, also, but if you think about it, you don't do overtime, right? You work a 9 to 5. So that is an expectation to have. It was a difficult adjustment, but yeah, it was okay.
I ask because I think we are quite attached to our salaries. And to go from community service and then now, like I explained before we even had this call, I'm in post ComServe Mickey Mouse era. To go from what you were earning in community service and then now you come into this and then now, you're looking into other industries and whatnot. It's also facing the realization that in other industries, if you want to leave clinical medicine, not necessarily leave, but if you want to pursue like a different path, your salary might take a hit. So it's something that you should be aware of.
Yeah, it definitely might, but I think depending on the type of person you are, and I guess your priorities as well, things take time. Things take time.
Mm.
Growth takes time. If you're trying to build, right, you will start at the bottom. But like, I think what I'm trying to say is I would encourage then someone who's trying to pursue that career to focus on the bigger picture for themselves because there's growth there, right?
Mm.
And so, like, you won't always be where you currently are when you start. So, the bigger picture, always, always, always. Sometimes you're not gratified immediately, and that's fine. That's just how life works.
Most definitely. Delayed self-gratification. Delayed
Yes.
self-gratification. You mentioned how there's a meticulous vibe that's necessary to be in research. Are there any other soft skills that you've noticed that you need to apply to yourself in order to be successful in the field?
Yeah, definitely. So ethics, very important, right? The way that you interact with your participants, the way that you interact with everyone around you, the way that you handle the protocol, I think that's very important. You constantly have to be ethical, truthful at all times. And I think because the research field, or at least where I work, it takes a big team of non-clinical staff. So there'll be doctors, there'll be data capturers, there will be nurses, there will be drivers for the participants to be brought in, there will be study coordinators, there will be all these people that come in together to make the team, right? And I think one of such soft skills is to be able to like work in a team, right? To be able to respect and know what each person's role is. Because I do know that, so we tend to be in our little bubble where we don't know what the next person does in the team. But I think that's important as well. And I think the product of the work It comes from each and every person in the team playing their role. So I think being a team player, just understanding the roles of other people working in the team and understanding that the other person's work is equally as important to the work that you yourself are doing.
Definitely, definitely. Being a team player, it sounds different on the other side where you're at because you're in such a bigger team. And I think it also takes humility to notice that this is my role within the team and you need to play your role right in order for the wheels to move forward.
Absolutely. And you'll find that there's so many people that have been doing the work that you're now coming into for the longest time. And so there's so much to learn from the people that have been working in the team. I think for me, really, I have part of my growth, or like a significant amount of my growth, has been because, people that have been there, my study coordinators pouring into me, actually being my mentors, my line manager pouring into me, other team members pouring into me. So yeah, definitely big learning curve. I'd say just be prepared to learn. One of the questions they actually asked, or they asked me in my interview was, how you handle criticism, or like someone, because there's a lot of that. There's a lot of not negative necessarily, or like correction. There's a lot of, rectifying and correcting that you have to do because we're human, we're prone to error and so forth. And so just be a preparedness to learn and a preparedness to know you won't get it right all the time. But really good teams, teams that are willing to teach. And I've been fortunate enough to be blessed with that.
That's such a blessing. What does a day in the life of you as a researcher look like?
All right. So where I work, you will work across different studies, right? And so you'll come in the morning, there'll be patients booked for the clinic, depending on, patients could be booked for different studies, right? So you need to know what the requirements are for each study for this particular visit. The work starts with preparing beforehand, familiarizing yourself with the work of the day. I mean, as you go on and do it more frequently, you know eventually what needs to be done. So then you'll go into the clinic, you'll see patients. There's definitely a lot of admin, right? And also, I think one of the differences with us is that it takes longer to see a patient because there's a lot that you need to ask. There's a lot that you need to do. There's a lot that you need to check and clarify, and then usually the consultation usually takes a bit longer. And then there's a lot of admin that comes with it, the reporting side of things, adverse outcomes. Is the person on new medication needs to be reported. You also need to check your work, and then your work gets checked by somebody else to make sure that the quality of work is good. And then after that, depending on what the requirements are for the other studies that you're involved in, you'll do that. So you'll check results for patients. If there's someone who's unwell in one of the other studies, then you'll see those patients as well. So a day really varies. And stats, which need to be, documented down to see if you're meeting your researched targets. So depending on the day, and it can look like that.
You mentioned how you have to like your preparation starts before you see the patient because you need to know the different studies and all. Do you have like a book that's with you with regards to like the studies, the different studies and like what to look for with regards to like reactions and things?
Yes, each study will come with a protocol, right? And the protocol basically details what you're doing in the study. So any procedures that are involved, it details on this particular day. This is what you ask this person. This are you take these vitals. You take them this way. If there's something you need to administer to this participant, this is how you do it. So they are quite big books. This is what you report, at what stage you report it, and so forth. And it takes a long time to familiarize yourself with that. So you'll find that we'll have those with us on our desk to cross-reference and check. And then I think for me, then what I would do is at the beginning of a particular study, if I'm seeing maybe like day 5, or someone coming on their 5th day of the study, what's required on this 5th day of the study of me? And then I'll look at that and just see and make sure that I remember that. But there's so many tools that you can use to make sure that you don't forget. I think the processes as well themselves, the documents that you use to fill remind you of the questions that you need to ask and the procedures that you need to be doing for that particular day. I think it's really nice. It's really nice once you get the hang of it. But it's quite different from what, our training, um or what we do in clinical medicine rather.
No, it does sound. It sounds different, but like it's an adventure, and you make it work.
Yeah.
You make
Yeah.
it work. In the research space, how would you advise, besides doing the courses, how would you advise someone who's looking into research to go about getting into the space?
I'm just going to say that there isn't so many ways that I know of because it's not the same as, or rather, the type of research that we do. If you're working for a research organization where you work in trials and so forth, won't really have that type of experience, right? Until you get into it. So I think the important thing is to make sure that you do courses. You can't even volunteer in these sites because you need to be approved to work in these sites. So it's not even that you could come and, volunteer in the work, but I would definitely then seek out a mentor in that space. So I would find someone who's a principal investigator in this site. I would ask for mentorship. There's things that you can do. Like familiarizing yourself with the work that the center does, which is very important, reaching out and just asking for mentorship and so forth. I like to emphasize the point that people really gravitate towards people they know because they can trust that you're interested in this. They've seen you before. So yeah, I think that's what I would advise you to do from the top of my head.
It's crazy how you get these roles where, they might be entry level, but they want you to have like experience. It feels like that's what these research roles are like.
Yes, it does feel that way, but they do take people with no experience. Coming into this, I had no research experience. The important thing that they want to know is that you're someone who can be trusted, someone with integrity, someone who's teachable, someone who believes in producing quality work, and someone who has a basic understanding of what the organization is, what it is about, and some of the work that they have done.
We touched on networking and mentorship, especially within this field as it's so necessary. Have you found the networking to be easier in person or like on LinkedIn?
I think, 50-50. There's a lot of people that you will encounter on LinkedIn, have an exchange with. But to be honest, actually, it's very hard then to meet a lot of those people. Some people don't live in the same city that you live in. Some people don't, they're not in the circles that you are able to infiltrate. Some people don't have the necessary time. So I think what has worked for me, or what I've found, or where I've gotten most of my mentors would have been in person. But I do know quite a lot of people who've met mentors online on LinkedIn and have found that experience quite helpful. So I think I would encourage both, pro both.
I think both have a place. In person, it's intimidating. It's intimidating, especially if you are completely new in a space. But like you said in the beginning, how people will gravitate towards people, you can put your touch with regards to your personality on it.
Yes, yes, definitely. I think I once said this to my friend that I have a bit of an interesting relationship with my imposter syndrome, or fear of approaching people, particularly in my career. Just imposter syndrome is that feeling that, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not supposed to be here, I'm a bit of a fraud. And I think for me, it's just one of those, okay, if I'm a fraud, then, let's see how far I can get with this. Let me just do this particular thing. Let me approach this person. Let me ask them. A lot of the times people are really receptive and willing, right? But if not, then that's fine. That's also fine because you end up just where you were. So yeah, I do understand that it's quite intimidating. I was nervous to do this interview with you, but I did it anyway, and it's going really well. So I think take that chance, talk to people. Nobody gets like 100% of like whatever they pursue, but I just keep going. That's what I do.
And as much as even if somebody says no, it won't kill you. I think sometimes you just have to tell yourself, as long as I don't die, there's no harm done.
Yeah, but rejection sucks. Rejection sucks. I'm not gonna lie. It's quite painful. It's quite painful. It's hard picking yourself up and trying again. And that's why I think it's important to have, support around you, support around you. My friends are really great at, oh, let's try again, So I think so. I think, yeah, regret is tough. I mean, sorry, rejection rather is tough. Yeah.
Somebody mentioned once that job hunting is basically rejection therapy on steroids. And unfortunately, that's a new reality among us as doctors in this field. How would you advise someone to navigate this period of unemployment and dealing with multiple rejections on end?
Sure. I actually came across a TikTok of a doctor who said they had applied for, I don't know if it was 70 roles in quite a short space of time. That's quite a lot, right? And the
I think I
rejection
also
is
saw it.
and the rejection is painful, right? It's not nice. I've experienced unemployment at every point in my post serve. There was a post, after internship, there was a period. Post serve, there was a period. Even between my role at Giredi and where I currently work, there was definitely a period of unemployment. And that's really, really tough. I do know that before, there was this unemployment crisis, there were a lot of opportunities for people to locum. But a lot of them are becoming less and less. But I would say with the opportunity, like with the little opportunity that you get to locum, I'd say invest into whatever it is that you want to do. So if you want to do anesthesia, for instance, invest in courses relevant to that, a diploma in anesthesia, because those things help you get ahead. I also think that it's very tempting to cast your net wide when you are not employed, right? But I think that robs you of the opportunity then to build towards what you want. So, for instance, if I'm saying I'm applying for internal medicine, I'm applying for um psych, I'm applying for I don't know what else. I don't necessarily then get to like build on what the requirements are for internal medicine. But I really do understand the importance of casting your net wide, because at the end of the day, you want employment. And also there is a need of healthcare workers in these facilities. So it's not just to say that, oh, it's just these people, forcing to get employed. So yeah, I would just encourage finding that one thing and building towards that. And yeah, it needs a little bit of patience, it needs faith, but yeah.
It's interesting. I've heard two different opinions. People say go for the specific thing, and then others say cast your net wide. But I like how you interpreted the specificness of what you're heading for. Because then you're able to target your efforts and you're able to compound upon that. And eventually that will play out. That will eventually give something.
Yeah, and you know what? Not to invalidate the person that's casting their net wide, because it's easy to speak from a point of, I'm employed, I have job security, so I can tell you, focus on this particular thing. Even if that's the approach that you're taking, but I would suggest having that one thing that you are building towards. Do you know what I mean? Like that one thing that
Mm,
you're focusing your efforts into. Yeah, because unemployment is not nice.
it's not a good look on anyone.
It is
It's
not
not.
nice. Yeah.
Okay, I think to close up, let's see, what would you tell your younger self with regards to navigating medicine? What do you wish she would have known?
It's so simple. I wish you would have known that everything's going to be okay. I had so much anxiety around where I'm going to end up, what I'm going to end up doing. Um, yeah, I would have encouraged her to just trust the process, do the work that's required, and that seasons change, and it will eventually be okay. I'm saying it will be okay now because it's okay right now, but I do expect that as I grow, there'll be curveballs and difficulties. Right, I was very anxious earlier on, just navigating different departments in internship. It was quite difficult to navigate that, especially as someone who knew I don't really want to be doing clinical medicine. But I would have trusted the process, trusted that things end, trusted that things happen in seasons in life, and there are great seasons and there are difficult seasons. I would have also wanted her to know that she's able to overcome adversity, and because just one of the things for me when I was much younger was that I wasn't so confident in myself, confident in my ability, confident in my intellect and skill. And I would have just wanted her to be confident, right? And these are important for me right now because this version of myself might feel like everything's okay, but if I am to carry on pursuing, career growth, there will be challenges and difficulties. And now that I know better, I will apply that into my life.
Definitely. That's so good. That's so good. Everything will always be okay. Eventually, at the end, things will always be okay. You also touched a bit on knowing that you don't want to do clinical medicine, but still having to move through this line of work. I think a lot of people, even I've experienced it, where it feels like it can be so debilitating to your everyday routine and also to what it is that you're building towards. How would you advise someone to, deal with that and how to grow through that experience?
Sure. I think, well, it's different, right? Depending on how it affects you, because for some people, it can severely impact their mental health, cause them to be, unable to cope. I would advise to take a break if you're able to, right? To seek
Mm,
professional help and support if you are someone who is able to access those resources. I think having a strong support system around you also helps, but taking it one day at a time, right? One rotation at a time. You'll see time goes by, and eventually you look back and be like, oh, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe that I'm done. There really is there really is no other way. It's just to persevere, and to get at the end of the road. I think there are people though on that, because I know people who have said this is not for me and they've left. So if you feel like, you know what, this is not for me, I don't see a future in this, then it's also okay to like pivot and find something else to do. I'm a big advocate for that. A big advocate for people to do things that improve or like contribute to a better quality of life for them. I think our work affects a lot of our quality of life because we spend a lot of time there. So if you feel like, this is not for me, there's definitely other things. This podcast is really helpful in highlighting the things that you can do with your qualification and degree. So you can also pursue those.
definitely. I really want us to put pivoting and just prioritizing who you are as a person more into medicine because the people are going through a lot and they need to know that it's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm definitely for that. And I think this platform is really amazing.
Now, by the grace of God, we'll see what it becomes.
I think it's already something amazing.
Thank you
I
so
really
much.
just hope
Thank
it
you.
finds the people that will benefit from it, but it's only a matter of time. Yeah, I knew about the podcast. So,
No, no, no. You literally, when you told me that you love the podcast when I messaged you, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a
yeah,
good alignment for you. This is a good alignment for us.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, where can the people find you if they want to learn more about any specific thing that you've said, if you've tugged some heartstrings, where can the people hear more?
All right. So I think on social media, I compartmentalize my life, right? Career and personal life, or like just a person enjoying social media. I think a lot of people that have reached out to me about research, how to get into it, how to prepare for an interview, have found me on LinkedIn. I respond to messages there. So Tutula Singata. I am on TikTok, but it's just a personal TikTok that I don't really do work there, but if you really want to like reach out, I'm not opposed to that. But I am Tutula on TikTok. I don't quite use my Facebook anymore. So yeah, my only social media would be TikTok and LinkedIn.
So, this has been such a lovely conversation on reinvention, pivoting, research, and what public health can personally mean to you. I hope you, my dear listener, have been able to take some nuggets of wisdom. And if you want any elaboration or expansion on anything, feel free to contact Tutula. She will be more than welcome to help you out. I can testify that her DMs are friendly.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for this. Yeah, so this has been Redoctoring, and I have given you permission to be a different kind of doctor, and I will see you next week. Please do like, comment, and subscribe, and do all the nice things to this episode wherever you're watching it. And yes, let's see who we have next week.